Regularly scheduled programs will not be seen tonight so that we may bring you the NFL football game live and in color.
Brady, back of the end zone, touchdown, Gronkowski, his second.
Mariota to Kendall Wright. Wright is off to the races, and it's the first touchdown of Marcus Mariota's career.
Here comes Tavon Austin, down the sideline. Austin, stays it goes, takes the ball away, for the Rams, touchdown. All the pressure on the left side, he drops the ball, throws, caught, Witten, touchdown.
Taylor's going to take a shot. He's got his man Harvin caught in the end zone for the Buffalo touchdown.
Welcome to Basically a Football Show.
Basically a Football Show. I'm Zach. Along with me is Greg. And Greg, week 1 in the National Football League. You ready for some overreactions? Ready for some week 1 overreacts? I'm ready to just make definitive statements about teams based on 60 minutes of football. How about you?
I am too. Like, first off, Jameis Winston was the wrong pick, obviously. For
worst quarterback of all time.
Worst pick ever, right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's...
Marcus Mariota, straight to the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
We could talk about that when we get to the Sunday afternoon. But, Greg, it's the NFL. You know the biggest day of the week. It's not Sunday. It's not Monday.
Oh, no.
Thursday nights, season opener, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the New England Patriots. It was actually a pretty interesting game, all things considered. Early on, the Steelers were just letting Gronk run all over the place on their defense. And, of course, Tom Brady back, not suspended, able to find Gronk a couple times early. Patriots go up 14-0, 21-13. And at 21-14, game's kind of in the balance again. Fumble at the goal line as the Patriots are driving. Gronk recovers it, initially called a touchdown, called back. Then on the very next play, Brady finds Gronk in the corner of the end zone for the touchdown. Gronkowski with 3 touchdowns on the day, 5 catches, 94 yards. Brady, 25 of 32, 288, 4 TDs, no interceptions. The Steelers had a lot of missed field goals. Josh Scobie, trying to keep this team in the game, gets cut the very next day.
Yeah, he did not have a good day or night.
Steelers are already on their third kicker, if I want to add. Big Ben wasn't too bad in the game. 26 of 38, 351, but a touchdown and interception. D'Angelo Williams stepped in at running back. 21 carries, 127 yards. Remember him?
Yeah. Former
Antonio
Carolina Panther great.
Yeah, Antonio Brown, 9 for 133 and a touchdown. And the Patriots win 28-21. They start off their championship defense 1-0. But that doesn't matter because, of course, the story of the game, Craig. What was going on with the headsets?
You know what? I don't think anything, really, honestly. The impression I took away from it, listening to the game, watching the game, was that it was just your basic electronic screw-up. Simple as that. Now, I think if you put this situation in any other game over the weekend in the NFL, it's not even an issue. But because the Patriots are involved, all of a sudden now, here we go again.
Yeah, the Steelers I guess they were hearing the Patriots radio broadcast
right
in their headset, so they were hearing the Baston Homas talking about the Pats going roughshod on the Steelers.
The stuff they use on the sidelines now, a lot of it's wireless, right?
Yeah, I guess what the NFL said was because of the weather, and you saw the kind of rain there in the second half, but I guess some of the weather was messing with the frequencies.
Right.
And the NFL is in charge of what frequencies everyone is using, and somehow or another the frequencies got just crossed. And the Pats radio broadcast ended up with the Steelers headsets. The Patriots, to be fair, they said, we won't use our headsets either until it was fixed. It was eventually fixed and not a big deal.
Well, I just want to explain something to people that I don't think a lot of people realize with wireless stuff like that. A lot of times, like say you're looking at your radio, right? And you go, okay, I'm listening to 105.3. And the next station up on your dial is 105.5. What people I don't think realize, there's a lot of little frequencies along that band that nobody uses that you aren't aware of. And sometimes things just get crossed up like that. So it was just, wireless technology, that kind of stuff happens. And again, if the Patriots aren't involved, we're not even talking about it. But what the game itself, so, we don't want to overreact to anything. I'm not ready to say, the Steelers, I wish I hadn't picked them to win the Central and all that. But I will say
Steelers still look good.
I think they look good, but I think you don't want to get too carried away with a team that performs poorly. on the first week of the season. You don't want to get too carried away with a team like Tennessee that goes nuts in the first week, but I think there are some things you can take away. And one of those things is that the Patriots are still the Patriots at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now I may be eating those words in 5 weeks, but I really doubt it. Gronk was just, Jesus, that guy's good. How
do you let him as wide open as the Steelers were letting him run around, though?
I was just going to ask that because one of his touchdowns, it was like he was the only guy in frame in the camera.
Yeah, well, you see, like they went back on the replay, and everybody lines up. Gronk is lined out wide right as a receiver, and there isn't a Steeler on that side of the field. And you see Brady kind of look over there, and all of a sudden he turns to the center and just, come on, snap the ball, the ball, let's go. And he gets it and gets it right to him, and of course Gronk basically strolls into the end zone. His second touchdown, nobody touched him at the line. Everybody realized they were behind him, started chasing him over the top. You're not going to get it from Gronk. The third one was just up in the corner, and you can't take it away from that guy.
I mean, if you're playing the New England Patriots, there is a guy, if there's one guy in the field that you've got to know his whereabouts at all time, it's Gronkowski.
Yeah.
You can't, I mean, maybe their third, fourth receiver, you can kind of go, yeah, we'll put him, zone coverage, lay off, like not get real tight on the man-to-man, whatever. You can't let Gronkowski go out there and stand out there by himself. Yeah. You just can't do that. I don't care if they were on their own 1 yard line, they're going to score. If he's that wide open, forget it. It's over. And
no, with Brady and Gronk, if you have to question yourself, is Gronk open right now? He's probably open.
Right. Exactly.
You gotta, on the second one, the first one, nobody's even over there, of course. The second touchdown, everybody's bunched up at the line. He's part of a trip set, but nobody even puts a hand on him until he's in the end zone. And it's just like, a guy that big, you gotta jam him at the line. And, as much as you could try, because he's a freaking tank.
Right.
But
don't you think, though, that
Steelers weren't even close on that?
I think sometimes that because he's a tight end, and the NFL is so set in its ways that you just don't double cover a tight end. You just don't do it. And I think that with Gronkowski and maybe a guy like Jimmy Graham, you got to really give it some thought. Like, you got to treat him at all times like a wide receiver. You cannot look at him as a tight end, like a big lumbering offensive lineman that just happens to catch passes. He's more wide receiver. He's more wide receiver than he is tight end, and I think you got to treat him that way. And until you do, well, you see the results on Thursday night. Simple as that.
Definitely. So the Patriots get their season opener. Roger Goodell wasn't there, correct?
I don't know.
I don't think he showed up, but that's fine.
Probably a smart move on his part.
Yeah, maybe. Let's move on to Sunday, and we'll start with the early games. And I guess we'll start with the particular early game. The Indianapolis Colts went into Buffalo. Rex Ryan's debut as head coach for the Buffalo Bills. And week one overreaction, the Colts are garbage. Week one overreaction, the Bills are Super Bowl caliber. The Bills defense was as advertised. 2 interceptions on luck, 2 sacks, and a fumble recovery. Colts came out pretty well. They were moving the ball on the first drive, but penalties just set them back. Interception gets returned to about midfield, and Tyrod Taylor, the starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, Tyrod Taylor, if you didn't know, unleashed a 51-yard dart to Percy Harvin in the end. Percy Harvin,
remember him? Yeah.
Yeah. And that was just setting the tone for the day. The Bills would go up 24-0, and then up 24-8, 24-17. The Colts are driving late. Looks like they got some legs under them. But with just under 2 minutes to play, the Bills intercept luck again, and they hold on for a 27-14 victory. Rex Ryan opens his coaching spree with the Bills. He's the first Bills coach in the last 8 coaches since Marv Levy to win his debut for the Bills.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. You would think the law of big numbers would just say that one of them would have gotten a win. At least one of them. Yeah. Wow.
But the Bills' defense, as I said, was as advertised, and offensively, Tyrod Taylor was pretty okay.
Right.
He had the big play. Besides that, 14-19, 195. He had 41 yards rushing, which equaled LaShawn McCoy's rushing output. McCoy was really a non-factor in this game. He was outrushed by Taylor and Carlos Williams, the rookie. Percy Harvin, 5 catches for 79 yards and a touchdown. And the Bills looked pretty good. This game makes me a lot more confident in my Bills making the playoff pick than before. Now I'm really set that I think this Bills team's playoff caliber, definitely.
I think they're good. I don't want to get too carried away. This is one of those games where you really got to kind of temper your reaction to it because...
Quote of the week for everybody here. I will overreact and Greg will temper my expectations, but continue.
The Colts are a good team. And
yes.
I think if this game takes place in week 9 and it's their second, third, maybe fourth loss of the season, it's not that big a deal. But because it was in week 1, the spotlight's shining really brightly. But I will say that a lot of the problems that they've had over the past few years reared their ugly head again. The defense had some issues. And running game, Frank Gore, 8 rushes, 31 yards.
Yeah.
You got to get more than that out of the running game for this offense to work. Now, again, though, you can say, well, okay, Buffalo's got a good defense. So I wish the Colts had played better. I'm not ready to bail on them after week 1, but you can see that there are some things that were concerns going into the season that may very well still be concerns as we go forward.
Definitely.
Buffalo, on the other hand, Tyrod Taylor got a lot of love on the highlight shows and the talk shows and stuff on Monday. And maybe he's the answer there. I don't know. But the Bills looked real tough in their first game.
Taylor was pretty good. Again, nothing spectacular. Really, the only spectacular play was that first touchdown pass to Percy Harvin.
Yeah, that was nice.
Just because it kind of came out of nowhere after an interception, big momentum swing for the Bills. Right, like you said, this game showed a lot of the things that the Colts have done to kind of hurt themselves the last few years. The defense wasn't great, and the offense, even at its best, it's always taken a while to get the gears moving on any given game. And Luck was fine at 26 of 49, 243, 2 touchdowns, but the 2 interceptions, one on the opening drive. But he got pushed back on that opening drive because of dumb penalties. It just the Colts didn't seem like they were there mentally, that they were ready to play this game when it started off. They got things moving later in the game, all their points in the second half, all 14 of them. But I just didn't like what I saw early on. But it was kind of the same as before. This team's going to take a little bit to kind of get the gears moving. I think they'll be a lot better on Monday night next week against the Jets. I think that'll be a nice kind of refresher for them.
If they go out and play like this again against the Jets Monday night, then we might want to start showing a little bit of concern. But what you saw a lot of, too, is that a lot of good week 1 games, but still a lot of sloppy play. A lot of penalties, stuff like that. So, the Colts, again, though, I am a little concerned that it seems like in game 1, now again, I'm not going to overreact to this, but it seems like in game 1 that a lot of the issues they've had weren't addressed as well as I'd have liked to have seen them be addressed. Buffalo, on the other hand, if this team really is what we thought it was, a team that's right on the cusp of being a playoff team, a win like this is huge because if you're looking at them as a team that's not quite there, maybe 9-7 talent, a win against the Colts is a big win for them. That will help them huge down the road. So Buffalo got off to a great start to the season.
Definitely. And they host the Patriots next week. So that's a big game for them to really, like, if they can beat the Colts and Pats in back-to-back weeks, put the Bills on the map.
Right,
The Bills will be there to play. The other thing with the Bills, the defense was great, but they were blitzing a lot, which obviously worked to perfection, and that's what you got to do against Luck. You got to make him work quickly and things like that. But if you're going to try to blitz the hell out of the Patriots and things don't work, then Tom Brady's somebody that can pick you off. So we'll see how that plays next week.
But Rex Ryan has also had real good luck against the Patriots too. So I don't think he's going to let that happen. But yeah, it's we'll see. The Bills, again, real good start. This is one of those games you got one that probably most people thought you weren't going to get. Now the trick is not to go down the road and lose one that you should have won. And that's really the difference when you're a team like the Bills where you're trying to get into the next level. That's what it's all going to come down to.
Let's go from my team to your team, Greg. You had a little bit better of a faring on Sunday as your Green Bay Packers, as you own them.
Right.
They generally just kind of outpaced the Bears in a 31-23 win. Down 13-10 at halftime, but no concern, I don't think. The Bears actually played a lot better than I think we thought we would see from the Bears. Matt Forte was really good. But Green Bay is just better. Made some of the plays there towards the end of the game and ended up winning 31-23. What did you see from your squad? You got to fire anybody yet?
Not yet, but just like we talked about with the Colts, you look at the Packers and you see some of the issues that needed to be addressed from last season still seem to be problematic this season. Mm-hmm. The defense is still playing that bend but don't break style of defense, and that's all well and good when you're playing a team like the Bears. But at some point, the defense has got to start getting off the field, and I think that's what they're running into here. And you cannot – now, Matt Forte is a good running back. There's no question about it. Probably a great running back. But you can't let up 141 yards of rushing to a back in a game. So Packers still obviously the offense is going to be there. James Jones doing a nice job of impersonating Jordy Nelson with the touchdown catches and all that. Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be fine in offense, but I still have some concerns about the defense. That's what I took away from the Packers' first matchup.
Yeah, Matt Forte, 24 carries, 141 yards. I think if the Bears can play like they did in Week 1, they'll win more games than I thought they were going to this year. But again, it's like a little kind of seesaw where it's just balanced on a very thin point. Where if the Bears, yes, if they play like this, they will be better than I thought they were this season. But anything less, and they might just fall back down the other side.
I think Jay Cutler's got to stop with the interceptions. I mean,
yeah.
He only had, I think, one in the game. Was it? I'm not sure how many he had. Maybe he had a couple more, but the one, it's like when he throws them at the worst possible time.
Right.
And I don't know if it's just a matter of if he's forcing it or if he's just that kind of quarterback where you're going to get numbers, but you're also going to have to make up for some of the mistakes and stuff like that. But the Bears played a lot better than I think anybody thought they would, and I'm with you. If they can keep up this kind of performance, they're probably not going to beat the top flight teams in the league, but they're going to get enough wins over the mid to bottom end of the NFC and the rest of the league to maybe do a little bit better than we thought.
Yeah, Cutler only the one interception. Aaron Rodgers, no interceptions and no sacks either. So good job there to keep your quarterback upright and healthy and win the turnover battle. That
and don't the Packers have Seattle this week?
They do, in Green Bay, though.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting game.
Let's see. Next up here, let's go down to Houston for Chiefs-Texans. The Texans did not look good early in this game. They were down pretty big at half. They were down 27 to 9. But those 27 points were the only points the Chiefs scored in the game. Travis Kelce, 106 yards, the tight end, 2 touchdowns early in this game. The third touchdown pass was to Jamal Charles. So now the Chiefs still have not thrown a touchdown to a wide receiver. If you're interested, at least 17 straight games now without a touchdown to a wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. At the very least, 17 games in a row.
Right.
No touchdown passes to wide receivers. Alex Smith, 22 of 33, 3 touchdowns. As I said, all to not wide receivers. But the Chiefs' offense went away there in the second half, and Brian Hoyer and Ryan Mallett both got playing time in this game. They both threw touchdown passes, too. They got it close within a touchdown, but couldn't make the comeback full in their home opener.
Well, see, what's the story with Hoyer? I was kind of flipping through because I have the NFL Sunday ticket, so I'd watch a little bit here and there. Yeah. I tune in, and all of a sudden Hoyer's benched, and there's Mallett. Now, was Hoyer hurt, or was he just sat down because he's Brian Hoyer?
I'm not sure because I was doing the same thing. I was at a house with Sunday ticket, so I was flipping around. But once I saw this game got out of hand, I went to other things.
I will say this, though. I think Travis Kelce, he was the guy that was coming on strong last year, had some good games for the Chiefs. He's a good tight end. Jamal Charles, a little disappointing in his first week performance, but again, it's the Texans defense. I don't know that you can really expect a lot of great running game out of a game against them. But the Chiefs going to Houston and doing a good job against a very, very tough defense. So nice start for the season for them.
Looks just like he was benched late in the game. Ryan Mallett took over with about 6 minutes left in the game.
Oh, okay. And, so Hoyer played most of the way then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, but I guess the crowd towards the end of the game was booing Hoyer during the most of the game. And I guess in the fourth quarter, Hoyer was called for an intentional grounding call, and the crowd began to chant, "Mallett, Mallett." Oh, my God. So if this is the start for Houston, again, week 1, you can take it how you want it. There's a powder keg there that if things just go a little bit worse, this team could go in the tank really quick, and that's too bad because I mean you think with that defense that they're always going to be in the games, but they were down 27-9 at halftime. You know, for this defense too to let up 27 points, that's concerning
to a Chiefs team that's not known for scoring 27 points and a half.
Sure,
but. Again, you don't want to overreact on the overreaction Monday or Tuesday or whatever it is, but
it's a concern. You look at it
with the Texans, right? If you know what they say, if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one.
Yeah,
and that's the issue with this team. And I don't think that either one of those guys are good enough to lead them to a playoff spot. I think they've got the talent everywhere else. They've certainly got it on defense. They've got enough offense to make it happen to be in the wild card hunt. But this isn't anything that I'm reacting to because of what happened on Sunday. This is what I thought going into the season. When your options are Brian Hoyer and Ryan Mallett, you've got a problem. And I don't know if they find a guy on the scrap heap. I don't know what they do, but they need a quarterback. And it's readily apparent at this point that they need somebody besides one of those two to run the offense for that team.
Let's move on to your other hometown team, the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, boy.
Things started off a little shaky as Josh McCown, leading a scoring drive, dives into the end zone, gets John Elway, gets the helicopter hit, fumbles at the goal line, concussed, fumbles recovered by the Jets, no points. McCown's out, and in concussion, he doesn't look great. So all of a sudden, we're already turning to Johnny Manziel in the first quarter of the first game of the year for the Cleveland Browns. And in the second quarter, Manziel throws a beauty of a touchdown pass.
Right.
A deep pass on 3rd and 19, a 54-yard touchdown. And I believe that put the Browns up in the game, correct?
Yeah, it looks like it, yeah. Based on the box score here, yeah.
And it looked like, well, maybe Johnny Manziel's righted the ship. But that was the last highlight for the Cleveland Browns on the day, as Ryan Fitzmagic and the New York Jets, they didn't look half bad. The defense played really well. Fitzpatrick, 15 of 24, 179, 2 touchdowns. Chris Ivory, 20 carries for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He had a good game.
Yeah, and Johnny Manziel wasn't even terrible. He was 13 of 24, 182, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He wasn't bad, but the rest of the Browns weren't good. And good God, those uniforms, Greg.
They are just not good at all, the uniforms. The team either, for that matter, but the uniforms.
Yeah, but orange pants, orange socks, you can't do that ever again. Please don't.
Just a lot of orange going on there, and it's one of those things where every time I see those uniforms, I like them a little bit less.
Yeah.
When they were debuted, I thought, okay, there's some potential here. These might not look half bad once we see them on the field. No, not the case at all. They just keep getting worse and worse. I can tell you how it went with the Cleveland fans, I'm sure. When McCown got hurt and Manziel came in and scored a touchdown, they were all ecstatic. This is our year, blah, 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 blah. By the third quarter, it was right back to same old, same old. You know, the more things change, the more they stay the same with the Cleveland Browns. I don't know what to make of them. I think we talked about it in the preview. If they can get any kind of quarterback play out of Ryan Fitzpatrick, the Jets might be halfway decent because they're going to have a good defense. Offensively, if Chris Ivory can keep a running game together, sort of, and Fitzpatrick doesn't hurt you too bad, Jets might be a little bit better than we thought they were going to be.
Jets might be a little bit better. Again, Ryan Fitzpatrick, like you said, a little more solid of a quarterback option than Geno Smith.
I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At least he's somebody that's, you know what you're going to get. He's going to stand back there, stay up straight, and play prototypical NFL quarterback a game.
If he plays smart, they'll be better than we thought they were going to be.
Yeah, so 31-10 win for the Jets over Cleveland. Let's move down the Atlantic coast to the nation's capital as Washington hosted the Miami Dolphins. This was kind of a crap game.
Boring, not much interest at all. Yeah.
No, not really. The Redskins they're up 3-0. Deshaun Jackson injures his hamstring. He's out for a little bit now. That's something that team needed. You know, they're already a mess as it is. Washington's up 10-0, and Ryan Tannehill rallies in the final 2 minutes of the first half for a touchdown to bring the score to 10-7. Go into the fourth quarter. Jarvis Landry gets a punt return to put the Dolphins up late. Keith Cousins tried to lead the comeback but is intercepted. And the Dolphins pull out a 17-10 win. Not the kind of like when we were talking before the season, we kind of put the Bills and Dolphins on equal pegging in that division, one maybe over the other, depending on who you flipped a coin or who you thought that day. Not exactly an inspiring performance by the Dolphins. Tannehill, 22 of 34, 226 and a touchdown. Jordan Cameron, pretty good, 4 receptions for 73 yards. But overall, not an inspiring performance. And if you measure that up against their main competition, the division, the Bills, I don't have too much more confidence in the Dolphins than I might have, before the weekend started.
With the Dolphins, I'll say this, that they went into a game that I've got to think, if you're a Miami Dolphin, yeah, it's the opening week of the season and all that, but you're playing Washington.
Yeah.
Probably hard to get fired up for that. They grinded out a win that they needed to get. I'll give them credit for that. Tannehill played pretty well. and they got the W. But other than that, again, I don't want to get too carried away because it's just the first week of the season. But based on that performance, not the most inspiring thing we've seen out of the Miami Dolphins. But I still think they're going to be very solid. Alfred Morris, that poor guy, you got a really good running back that is on just a god-awful team, and that's a shame. I'd love to see him play for somebody good. But, really not a lot to say about this one. The Dolphins grind out the win they needed to get, and there you go.
Carolina wins in Jacksonville 20-9 over the Jaguars, excuse me. The Panthers defense, 3 interceptions and 5 sacks. Obviously, Jacksonville, Blake Bortles, not exactly an offensive powerhouse, but still a very good performance there by the defense. The offense wasn't great, but it did what it needed to do. And he gets Cam Newton his first ever Week 1 victory as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
No kidding.
That? Yeah.
See, I would think, again, the law of big numbers would say he'd have to have gotten at least one.
I remember I was at his first ever game. He opened in Arizona, and he threw for like 400 yards.
Yeah, I remember that.
And lost.
Yeah.
And that was a entertaining game. But yeah, his first Week 1 win. Not too much else to say there. 20-9 over the Jaguars.
I will just say this: the Panthers are now 1-0. That's a commanding lead in that division at this point.
That's very true. Everybody else in that division is 0-1 to start the season. So. Or no, they're actually tied with your division favorite,
the Atlanta Falcons.
Monday night,
that's a commanding start for the Panthers. They're way out in front already in that division. So way to go, guys.
But let's probably go to I think the most entertaining game of the weekend in St. Louis as the Seattle Seahawks visited the Los Angeles Rams. Whoa. The Rams looked good early in this game, tied at 10 at half. They go up by 11 in the third quarter, but Russell Wilson manages to rally the Seahawks to get a lead late. But Nick Foles comes back and rallies the Rams late to tie it. They go into overtime. The Rams get the ball first, kick a field goal. Seahawks get their possession, go down the field. They're held at about the 40. They could either choose to – they're on fourth down. They could kick a long field goal. Or at 4th and 1, they're – faced with the fact, well, maybe we just need to get 1 yard. We'll hand the ball off this time, unlike we did last year. But just like last year, it doesn't work. Marshawn Lynch stuffed at the line, and the Los Angeles Rams of St. Louis win their season opener over the Seahawks, 34-31 in overtime. The Rams are 1-0, and the Seahawks are 0-1. What a game that was.
It was something, and I think that first things first, what did you think about Seattle trying the onside kick to start overtime?
It was ballsy. Sure.
Gutsy call. I can't knock him for it. I don't want to second guess him because they didn't get it. But it sure made a hell of a big difference. I just think that if I've got that defense, I don't know that I'm going to take a chance at handing a team the ball in such good field position like that. But
we're talking about defenses. St. Louis had 6 sacks on Wilson.
The only thing that surprises me about this, I mean, the Rams have played the Seahawks tough for the past couple seasons.
Yeah.
The only surprising thing about this to me, I think, is the final score. That's a lot more points than I would have guessed going into this one.
Well, each team got a special teams touchdown with punt returns and kickoff returns.
Yeah, the kid that I always mistake for the guy that was part of the shooting.
Tavon
Austin, right. Had a nice kick return or punt return. I can't remember. But, yeah. 75-yard
punt return, yeah.
Nice start for the Los Angeles Rams to the season. Really a big win for them. And, again, this is one of those where you got one you probably didn't think you were going to get. So now you can't go out and screw up and lose one you should have had. But
in front of dozens at the Edward Jones.
Dozens upon dozens, yeah.
Yes.
Seriously, what was the attendance? I didn't really pay attention.
Let me see if I can pull that up.
I watched the last, 3 minutes of it and then the overtime.
It doesn't have it in the little thing I'm looking at.
Probably for the best.
I think it was the announced attendance was 53, but I think only 40 actually showed up to the start of the game.
Wow.
So
opening week NFL season, you get 40,000. Come on.
Yeah, against the division rival, a team that, again, like we said, they've played pretty well against.
What are they? 2-time NFC champions.
Yeah.
Pretty good draw. I mean, yeah, that's not a good sign for the Rams there.
But maybe this win will get some people out there, right?
Yeah, I doubt it.
Let's move on to the afternoon. We'll start with the other 1-0 team there in the NFC, or one of the 3 1-0 teams in the NFC West. The Arizona Cardinals, they get a 31-19 win over the Saints. Not too much to talk about here. Good offensive game from the Cardinals. I thought Carson Palmer played really well.
Yep.
Darren Fells, the tight end, played extremely well. a guy that didn't play high school football, or didn't play college football, excuse me. He played basketball at UCI, played professionally overseas for 5 seasons, was on the Seahawks practice squad, the Cardinals practice squad, got a start last year, and I think he had 75 yards in this game for the Cardinals, so pretty good showing there for the tight end there out of UCI.
This is a great start for the Cardinals. You get a Seahawks loss, they get the win over a fairly decent opponent, and Carson Palmer looked good. They keep him upright. I like this team a lot this year.
Well, if you remember, that's how last season started too. I don't know. Did the Seahawks lose in week 1? I know they started out like 1-4 or 2-4.
They beat the Rams, I think, like 12-10 or 14-12 last year in week 1.
Right, it was really close.
Right, yeah. But this Cardinals team
kind of. I think the thing to take away from this, though, the Cardinals' defense wasn't as good as you would want to see them, but the offense was much better, as we mentioned with Carson Palmer.
Right.
But Andre Ellington gets injured. He's going to be out for a little while, so guess who's the starting running back for your Arizona Cardinals?
I don't know.
Chris Johnson.
Chris Johnson. He's still in the league, huh?
That Chris Johnson.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, you know what? If he can be 85% of what he was in that one really good season he had at Tennessee, that might work out for him.
Larry Fitzgerald actually had a pretty good day, too. 6 receptions for 87 yards. And Drew Brees wasn't terrible either. 30 of 48, 355. But as I watched the game, this Saints team they're not even close to what they were.
No.
You know?
No.
Like you said, we talked about it in the preview, that they're not at that elite level that they were not even 2 years ago, you know?
Exactly. The window has closed for them, and they are, as we stated in the preview, heading down the other side of the hill. They're still going to be good enough to get a win here and there, but I don't see them as a serious playoff contender this year, even in that division. I mean, they might get it in that division, but that's going to be about as far as it goes for them.
Probably the most entertaining game of the afternoon was Lions-Chargers down in San Diego. The Lions looked pretty damn good in the first half.
Yes, they did.
Going up 21-3 at one point, up 21-10 at half. And then in the second half, it was all San Diego. 30 unanswered points by the Chargers. I guess it was a little warm down there in San Diego. It's been warm here in Southern California a lot. They were using a lot of screens and draws to kind of stretch out the lines. They looked like they got a little tired. The Lions left the Chargers the opportunity to get back in there, and they took it for a 33-28 victory over the Lions. And in the win, Phillip Rivers ties Dan Fouts for the franchise record in touchdown passes.
No kidding, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't think that Rivers had, because it seems like, again, now this is my memory, but it seems like Dan Fouts had 40 touchdown passes a year every year of his career, so it's hard for me to fathom somebody catching that. But yeah, the Chargers look good. The Lions, they came out of the gate in that game, just looked fantastic. Yeah. But I think that we talked about this in the preview too, that the loss of Sue and Fairley on that defense, I think we kind of saw the effects of that, especially in the second half. But again, San Diego doing the smart thing, using the heat to wear out the Lions, and it worked out to their advantage. But great start for the Chargers. Nice win.
We'll move on to the big. This one should have been billed a lot higher. I don't think this was advertised well enough, is what I'm trying to say. As the number 1 overall pick, Jameis Winston, went up against the number 2 overall pick, Marcus Mariota, down in Tampa Bay. And not the best start for Jameis Winston, as his first touchdown, or his first pass, got intercepted in return for a touchdown. Not exactly the way you want to start your career.
No.
If you're Jameis Winston. But Marcus Mariota looked fantastic. What did he finish up with? 209, 13 of 16 for 4 touchdowns. 13 of 16 with 209 and 4 touchdowns. That's a pretty good clip if you're scoring that at home.
Yeah.
He's the first. He joins only Frank Tarkenton as a player to start his career in his first NFL game with 4 or more touchdown passes. 200 yards, no interceptions either for Mariota. He looked pretty good.
I think they ran a nice conservative offense for him, and I heard somewhere in all the analysis I listened to yesterday that Ken Wisenhunt installed elements of the Oregon offense in there to make things more comfortable for him. Again, now, here's where you really don't want to overreact. You don't want to get carried away by the Titans putting up 42 on the Bucs. You don't want to all of a sudden decide Jameis Winston's the worst draft pick ever and all that. But I'll just say this about Mariota. Tarkenton made the Hall of Fame. So if you want to take anything away from that, if you want to extrapolate that out, that's nice. But, Mariota looked really good. The Buccaneers, not so hot. And I think that both of these teams fall somewhere in the middle of what we saw of this. I don't think the Titans are this good. I don't think the Buccaneers are this bad.
I think the Buccaneers are this bad.
Well, they're probably this bad, but I don't think the Titans are quite this good. It'd be kind of cool if they were, but of course that's what it would be the case because the year I finally step away from them, they decide, hey, we're going to be good this year. But
I was going to ask, does Marcus Mariota inspire any irrational confidence in you?
I'm too late. It's too late now. I picked the Vikings as my irrational confidence team this year.
That might have been a mistake.
I think so. I can't go back on that. But yeah, he looked great in his first start, and if he can get, I'm not going to say he can do this the rest of the way, but if he can play halfway decent the rest of the way, the Titans will be competitive, I think. But I'm not going to get too excited over this win.
Winston looked rattled. Winston, I don't think he was ready for his first game. And it's not like the Titans were world beaters last year either.
Yeah.
So, Jameis Winston, just in a first game, Marcus Mariota played better than Jameis Winston. The other interesting thing, Jameis Winston in his career in college and now his career in the NFL, he's only lost to one quarterback. That's Marcus Mariota twice. Remember, he beat him in the Rose Bowl last year.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
0-2 against Marcus Mariota.
And I'll just say this, too. The Titans, nice move with going back to the Navy jerseys. They look fantastic and put you right back in the running for one of the best looks in the league, as far as I'm concerned.
Next up on the docket, you got Bengals Raiders. Again, not a whole lot to talk about here. If anything, this game only just kind of took a little my irrational confidence away from the Raiders.
But remember, Derek Carr, or is it Derek? Yeah, he's the one that plays for the, he got hurt, so don't give up on him too quick.
But the Bengals, they did what they were supposed to do, went into Oakland and put up a lot of points on a hapless Raiders team, 33-13 in a awful looking game. Terrible.
Yeah.
On the baseball field with the Bengals jerseys and I hate day games at the Raiders at the Oakland Coliseum. It just looks bad to me for some reason. I don't know.
But yeah,
last game from the afternoon slate, Broncos Ravens. Again, not a terribly inspiring game from either team. Both teams kind of struggled offensively. Peyton Manning 24 of 40 for 175 and an interception as the Broncos outlast the Ravens 19-13. Really, the big story out of this one is Terrell Suggs tears his Achilles tendon. He is out for the season. A guy that was going to kind of be the linchpin of that Ravens defense is out for the year, and that puts a big damper on the Ravens, I think.
That hurts them a lot. I mean, it really hurts their defense a lot. And are we going to overreact to this game with the Broncos offense and Kubiak doing the emphasis on the run and all that, or not?
I don't know.
I don't like it. I don't know why. I guess, and I don't know why I forgot to bring this up when we were doing the preview, but why in the world, when you've got Peyton Manning as your quarterback, would you go in, take over a team and go, we're going to run the ball more?
Well, the thing is, when they ran the ball, they didn't even run that well.
That's the thing. And
Ronnie Hillman, 12 carries, 41 yards. C.J. Anderson, 12 carries, 29 yards.
That's what I'm
Peyton
saying.
Manning, 1 carry, -1 yard.
C.J. Anderson's a good running back, but you've got Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
You don't decide, hey, you know what, we're going to go 3 yards in a cloud of dust. No, you don't do that. And the only concern I take away from this, I think the Broncos will be fine. But it concerns me that Kubiak's got the mindset that we want to run the ball more. That could hurt this team because you've got Peyton Manning. And you don't hand the ball off when you've got him. You just don't do that.
Again, Peyton wasn't even really that great in this game. 24-40, like I said, for 175. 1 interception, no touchdown passes, sacked 4 times.
Yeah,
Joe Flacco wasn't any better. 18-32, 117, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks.
This is a strange game. Did you watch any of it?
I caught bits and pieces.
Not good.
I don't know. Normally you would think with Denver you'd see something, but not a whole lot. I think each team only scored 1 touchdown in the game, a lot of field goals. 19-13 is an ugly score.
Weren't both touchdowns scored by the defenses too, if I remember right? I'm not sure. So. Maybe it might have been.
Yeah, there's no receiving or rushing touchdowns on either side of the board, so
it just it looked a lot like, I'll tell you what it reminded me of was a preseason game in the second half.
Yeah.
It's just not a lot of good, tight football, but I think they'll both be okay. I mean, that Suggs being out for the season for the Ravens hurts them. And the Broncos, Peyton will figure it out. They'll find their way. I'm not going to get too concerned about the Broncos after this, but wow. Didn't look great to come out of the gates there.
Let's move on to the Sunday night game, as a game that Greg has already confessed to me he didn't watch the ending of.
I did not. Nope.
Shame on you, Greg, because you missed a good one. A back and forth between the Giants and Cowboys. The Giants, we'll fast forward to the fourth quarter. Giants are inside the 20. They're going in for a touchdown. There's about a minute and a half left, and there's been some criticism about the play calling.
Rightfully so, I think.
An incomplete pass stops the clock, and the Giants do eventually score to go up 26-20 with, as I said, a little over a minute remaining. But a pass on third down stops the clock, and I don't know what the Giants are doing there. It kills their momentum. Again, gives the Cowboys a little extra time. Cowboys take the ball back. Tony Romo leads a drive down the field, gets the ball into Jason Witten's hands with, I think, 20 or 40 seconds remaining. And the Cowboys pull this one out of the fire, 27-26. As it looked, the Cowboys didn't play all that well for the majority of this game. I thought the Giants were better for the first 2/3 of it, but the Cowboys got it together and won this game late.
Two things to take away from this. First off, the Cowboys lose Des Bryant for most people are saying 4 to 6 weeks. I've seen reports it's going to be as many as 8.
Yeah, it's a broken bone in his foot, and for comparison, this is the same type of foot injury that Kevin Durant in the NBA has dealt with for a long time.
Ooh.
And, if that thing doesn't heal properly, as you've seen with Kevin Durant, it could linger, and that's not very good for somebody that has Des Bryant on both of his fantasy teams.
Hey, tell me about it. I have him on one of mine.
But, yeah, that's a huge loss for the Cowboys offense, especially because the running game didn't look all that great without DeMarco Murray.
No.
Tony Romo looked good, but again, and it's week 1, you can't judge it fully, but the Cowboys looked a little less than they were last year.
They looked a lot more like the Cowboys from 2 years ago than they did the Cowboys from last year. They still came back and got the win, but as far as that play call with the incomplete pass for the Giants, in today's NFL, especially against a team with a good quarterback, you just cannot leave any time on the clock if you can possibly avoid it. And that's where I run into the problem with that pass, because you stop the clock and you buy the Cowboys, probably 40 seconds by doing that. Mm-hmm. And obviously it made the difference. But Giants looked better than I thought they would. The Cowboys looked a little too much like the 2013 Cowboys. But again, it's week 1, so I'm not going to get carried away too much. But one thing I did see, Darren McFadden made one nice play that I saw, and I thought, well, that might work out well for him. But yeah, they're losing Bryant's going to hurt. I'm going to be curious to see how they work past that.
Yeah, the other interesting thing to take away from this is no touchdown passes by Eli. Only one rushing touchdown by the Giants on Rashard Jennings. I think the score made the Giants look a little bit better than they were. I thought they played well in the first half.
Right. But
when they finally got their points, it was off a fumble. I think there was a punt return in there. And it just, I don't know. It didn't, They got lucky with some of the plays. A couple fluke plays that gave the Giants some points and kept them in this game. But again, Dallas wasn't all that great either. So the ending pull saved this game from being basically what the Denver Baltimore game was.
Well,
but a good ending there by the Cowboys.
When I turned it off was when the Cowboys made a turnover and the Giants got it like the Cowboys won.
Yeah.
And it aggravated me, so I turned it off and I missed the rest of the game. And it's just, I think we talked about it in the preview. The Giants are, again, they're closer to the bottom of the hill than, say, a team like the Saints are. Mm. So, I don't know that. I mean, you can, they played a pretty decent first half, but they're still not going to be very good. You can take that away. And the Cowboys losing Des Bryant, that's going to be the key to all of this. I mean, they got the win. Probably a game they probably shouldn't have won, really, but they got it. And it'll be curious to see going forward. Just again, the loss of Bryant is the one that it's a glaring loss, especially when you no longer have DeMarco Murray back there to hand the ball to. So that's going to be something that I got to see how the Cowboys react to.
Move on to Monday Night Football with a brand new graphics package on ESPN. Before we start talking about the games, what did you think about the new Monday Night Score bug?
I don't like it.
The thing I don't like about it, the things that stuck out to me, I described it as looking like a video game scoreboard.
Exactly.
Does it not look like exactly like a scoreboard on Madden would look?
Mm-hmm.
And then I understand what they did, and it's kind of cute that every time the ball is snapped, the scoreboard disappears, and it's supposed to take away any distractions, just focus on the action. if anything, that's actually very distracting for me.
Well, because we're so used to having the scoreboard there at all times now that if you do stuff like that, you notice it. It's just the thing I didn't like about it is I think they got a little happy with the fonts. That's the part of it that I like the least. I know that there were complaints from people today that I guess don't know how to set up a television. We can't see the timeouts. Well, that's not the graphics. That's not the problem. You have your TV set the wrong way.
Well, I couldn't see the timeouts on mine either, and mine's set up correctly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because the timeouts were on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't see them.
Because a lot of times it's because you have it, they have a zoom setting for your 16:9 widescreen setting.
Right.
And if you zoom in, it takes away a little bit of the top and the bottom of the screen. And that was the case in for a lot of people. But overall, no, I think they got too cute with the fonts, and I don't like the bouncing in and out thing either.
Yeah. I understand, and it's well intentioned, but it's just, when something's constant, you're used to it being there, and it going up and down, it draws my eye to it every time. And maybe that's part of it. They want you to keep looking at it. But I don't know. And the other thing was I generally hate scoreboards or scorebugs that are just a big bar that go across one portion of the screen.
Yeah.
I prefer the little boxes.
Right.
That's just me.
But
anyway, for the game itself.
Yeah.
In the first half, Atlanta came out, and they looked good. Especially in the second quarter, they take a 20-3 lead going into half, and the Eagles don't look all that hot. But we come out into the third quarter, and the Eagles, the gears start turning, the offense starts churning. DeMarco Murray gets his first touchdown run with the Eagles there in the third quarter. They get a touchdown pass from Sam Bradford to DeMarco Murray to bring this thing to 20-17 going into the fourth quarter. Field goal by Atlanta, a touchdown by the Eagles, and a field goal by Atlanta gets us to 26-24. So with about 6 minutes left, the Eagles get the ball back, and they're winding down clock. And now they get down to the Falcons side of the field. There's about 2 minutes left?
Thereabouts, yeah.
And we're at a fourth down. And as you hit the fourth down, the Eagles have all three of their timeouts. It's still before 2 minutes. You still have the 2-minute warning. And it looks like maybe Chip Kelly's going to go for it. This would be a good time to go for it, establish it, just take this game by the balls, really, and take that chance, take that shot. But he sits there and kind of stares at it for a little bit, outthinks himself, runs the kicker out there late, and they're sprinting to try and set up. As soon as they're set up, they get the ball off just in time, and a rush kick goes wide right, and the ball goes back to the Falcons. And to the Eagles' credit, they get a 3-and-out. They force the ball back. Sam Bradford gets it. They get to a fourth down. They go to throw it. It's intercepted. And the Falcons hold on to win this one. 26-24 at home to kick off their season with a victory. My thing to talk about in this game, we can get to how well the Falcons played, but my big question in this game is, what was Chip Kelly doing there? Did he not want to take the timeout and save all three of them to stop the Falcons? Did he not think about the 2-minute warning? Did he think he was still in college that didn't happen? I thought that it was just a bad move I understand if you want to sit there and think about it, but if you want to kick it at that point when you've waited this long in the play clock, take the timeout.
Take the timeout, exactly.
I think the kicker out there and watch him sail it right. I
think you answered your own question a couple minutes ago. I think he just outthought himself.
Yeah.
He ruminated it. He let it ruminate far too long. And by the time he finally decided to make a decision, it was too late. And I'm with you. Take the timeout. If you do not, under any circumstances, especially in a tight game like that, do you want to rush your kicker out onto the field? That's where the big mistake was. I mean, take a timeout, get the easy points, and go from there. But I knew that at halftime, the Falcons had the big lead. They looked great, but I thought this Eagles team's not gonna play this poorly all night long. The offense is gonna find itself, and they're going to get moving along here. And that's exactly what they did. This is a pretty good game, and Julio Jones had a great game for the Falcons. Sam Bradford, look at him, 336 yards and a touchdown pass. Not bad.
Dan Quinn wins his debut for the Falcons, coming over from the Seahawks as the defensive coordinator.
How many is that? Like the first one of those in forever too?
I don't know. I think Mike Smith might have won his first game as a Falcon.
That's amazing.
But yeah, look at the stats. Julio Jones, 9 catches, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. Matty Ice, 23 of 34, 298, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But yeah, Bradford played well, I thought. And like you said, it was only a matter of time. I was looking at it. It's like, yeah, it's 20-3, but the Eagles if the Eagles get going, they got going quick, and they did. It was just amazing to see them take out those big chunks of yardage,
right?
Just marching down the field on each of those scoring drives late in the second half. But it comes up short based on what I thought was kind of poor clock management by Chip Kelly, outthinking himself, and the Eagles lose their first game. And again, this is what we talked about. The Eagles have a balance to hit, that they could win a ton of games, but if they get into a situation like this and they're just not enough there, then they lose it.
Right.
They're walking that tightrope all season, I think.
Exactly. The Falcons looked good, but we talked about it way back at the beginning of the show. Still some issues there that carry over from last year. The defense still needs to tighten up a little bit. They played okay in the first half, but the second half, you just, when you've got a team down like that, you've got to be able to finish the job, and they weren't able to do that. Now, part of the credit for that goes to the Eagles offense, which is very good when it's hitting on all cylinders. But again, the Falcons need to find a way to tighten up that defense. But they get the home win and have what could be an insurmountable lead in the NFC South.
Well, they are tied with the Panthers.
Right.
Let's not back off.
But those two play each other twice this year yet, so.
Yes. Let's move on to the second part of the Monday night doubleheader. Vikings 49ers from the Jesus, I have to say it because it's just so dumb.
Oh my God, is it ever? There was a lot of bad things in this. But go ahead.
From the big bell bottom.
Really? I mean, come on, really?
Oh, I mean, this game was garbage.
It really
was garbage.
And can I just say, too, that I think those 49ers alternate uniforms may be the worst uniform in the history of the National Football League.
Between the 49ers uniforms, between the play on the field in the first half, between the broadcast itself, God, this game was a dumpster fire.
It was.
Your irrational confidence Vikings, Teddy Bridgewater wasn't too hot. The Vikings only get 3 points late in the fourth quarter. The 49, there was blocked field goals by both teams in the first quarter.
No, there was
fumbles and interceptions.
It was Super Bowl V all over again. I mean, these two teams didn't play each other, but that's what Super Bowl V was like. We talked about that a couple of weeks back.
It was just terrible. And in the second half, the 49ers started handing the ball to Carlos Hyde. Ends up with 26 carries, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that led the Vikings to victory there. The 49ers to victory, 20-3.
Two things. First off, Carlos Hyde did what I think a lot of people thought he could do once he got the shot. Mm-hmm. He's going to be a good running back. And the second thing, the 49ers need to take those uniforms and burn them immediately.
Ugh.
They are horrible. I'm not too worried about the Vikings. This was just a bad game, and sometimes bad play in a half like that can just carry itself through, and you lose your confidence, you lose your focus, you lose a lot of things, and we see the result. I don't think that I'd get too terribly excited if I'm a 49ers fan. I still think they're going to be terrible, but my God, were those uniforms horrible. And the big bell bottom.
Can we talk about Berman? Like, I refuse to see why they let him do this game.
Because he's Chris Berman.
Well, I understand that, but he only calls play-by-play for 2 things all year. All year.
I don't know that I would. I don't know
that. It's a home run derby, which I don't know if you call that play-by-play. And then the one football game every year. Football game. And him and Trent Dilfer are terrible.
I don't know that you can. Terrible. I don't know that you can say what he did last night was actually play-by-play. It was. He was
confused. It was hard for him to pick up players' names, and I understand that with those uniforms, dark red against black.
Right.
You can't do that from up in the press box. No way.
It was awful.
Trent Dilfer he's very excitable, to put it lightly. Did you hear his gem that he dropped in the studio this week?
No.
Just remember. You can't lose games in the NFL and still win.
Well, that would seem obvious to most.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. So
there was nothing to like about this game. Just nothing. I can't think. I thought the Vikings looked pretty good in all white. I'll say that.
I think that was only the first or second time they've worn the white.
Yeah, might have been. But other than that, you're right. It was a dumpster fire. And Chris Berman said a lot of dumb things in his career. I think the big bell bottom might be the one that tops the list.
Like, I know that's his thing where he names a stadium the Big Blank,
mm-hmm.
but for Levi's, you could have just said the Big Blue Jean.
Right.
Or the Big Denim.
The Big Denim. That actually works.
Or you could name that 100 things. bell bottoms are not the first thing I think of when I think of Levi's. I guess maybe he's trying to tie in San Francisco in the 60s that they're known for, but...
Oh, that's a real stretch, though. I mean, even if that's what he's going for, you know?
You're old, Chris.
Yeah.
Maybe we just tell you that. You're old.
When you got guys my age going, dude, you sound like an old man, that's bad.
I'm happy that game's out of the way.
Yes.
And I don't have to see that ever again. And we can move on to week 2. Right?
Yeah. Just horrible. Nothing good to say about that game at all. Good Lord.
Looking ahead to week 2 real quick, some of the highlights. Thursday night, the first official CBS NFL Network Thursday night game. Broncos-Chiefs, big early game there in the AFC West. On to Sunday, Buccaneers-Saints, who gets out of the cellar in the NFC South. It's a big one.
They both have a shot to climb right back into the race in the NFC South.
The Chicago Bears take on the old Chicago Cardinals in Soldier Field. Patriots-Bills in Buffalo. That's a big one. Titans-Browns in Cleveland.
Wow. That would have been a great game in '86 when it was the Oilers and the Browns, the real Browns, and the Oilers. But today, man.
2 big games later in the day. Cowboys-Eagles. Big game there for the NFC East. The Eagles can't go. The Eagles can't start 0-2.
No. Well, I don't know, though. In that division, maybe it's not the end of the world if they do. Because you've got
the Cowboys are up 2-0 and with the tiebreaker on the Eagles.
Yeah, that's going to hurt.
And then the Sunday night game, Packers-Seahawks in Lambeau.
Oh, God.
Packers looking to get revenge on their home turf.
Oh, God.
But it's not exactly going to be an icy tundra. It's scheduled to be 71 degrees.
No, yeah. It's going to be the weather's going to be fine. Wow. I don't like that game.
Monday night, I'm going to go ahead and say your early contender for game of the week in terms of aesthetics, Jets-Colts Monday night.
Oh, absolutely. If the Jets stay away from those green pants, that thing's going to be, I can guarantee you right now, top 3 at least.
And do you want to give us the highlights of your list, the top and the bottom of your best-looking games of the week, Greg?
Well, the number 1 game was obviously Bills-Colts. Mm-hmm. It was close, though. It could have been Kansas City Texans because that game looked great, too.
I don't like the all-white for Houston.
See, I thought it looked pretty good. I'm okay either way.
Those Bills throwbacks, gorgeous.
They are gorgeous.
Bills jerseys are perfect football jerseys.
And my worst of the week was 49ers Vikings because I added a new rule.
Because of that.
I added a new rule this year because it used to be both teams had to look terrible, but I thought the 49ers ruined this game. This could have been a fantastic matchup.
With that shade of red, the black just does not work. The gold helmets really stuck out. Just terrible game. But that's in the past. We're on to week 2. Let's see if any of these overreactions pay off. Want to talk some college?
Yes, let's move to college.
Move on to week 2 in college football. We'll just start at the top of the rankings and move our way down. The number 1 Ohio State Buckeyes, they continue to roll 38-0 over Hawaii. The only important thing to really talk about in this game, the uniform matchup.
I like the old Hawaii uniforms. Now, I think that you've got something to work with there. They need to be
I love the rainbows, the rainbow stripes. It's something cool. It's different. It's unique.
Needs to be updated, but that is something I think they should pursue because I've always loved that look, and I thought they looked pretty cool.
You think Ohio State looked a little sluggish at all? I heard some complaints about the Ohio State not really jumping out.
Yeah, they were sluggish coming out. I mean, they put up 21 in the fourth quarter, but the defense played a lot. You know, they did a good job keeping the rainbows off the scoreboard. But yeah, they were sluggish coming out of the gate, and I think it's just a matter of you just came off a big game against a team you'd been gunning for all off season into week 2 against a team that you know you're going to beat. It's your home opener, and they just weren't as fired up as they should have been. But they were fine. They ended up winning at 38-0, so I'm not concerned at all.
Yeah. Number 2, Alabama beats up Middle Tennessee.
No
Thanks
surprise
for playing.
there.
Here's your check.
Yep, exactly.
TCU puts up 70 on Stephen F. Austin in a 70-7 win. Here's your check. Thanks for playing. Number 4, Baylor puts up 66 on Lamar, who scores 31 points against Baylor.
Well, we knew the Baylor's not known for their defense.
Well, and again, if you score 66 points, the other team's going to have the ball plenty of times.
Exactly.
So, Baylor, number 4, wins. The top 4 stays the same as we move down to number 5 in the big game of the weekend, if you want to talk about ranked team versus ranked team. Michigan State hosted number 7 Oregon in East Lansing. Before we get to the game, the uniforms. Michigan State, those bronze helmets, throw them in the trash.
Put them right in there with the 49ers uniforms.
In the trash.
Yes.
I like the Oregon helmet it was white with like a green, yellow metal flake in it.
Right.
They use the duck logo on the side. I think they should use that more than they do.
I agree.
The helmet could use a little yellow, but I think that was actually a pretty good look for Oregon.
I didn't think they looked bad at all.
No, Michigan State though, black and bronze. When your chant is "Go green, go white," and your uniform is green, bronze, and black. Think about what you're doing.
Probably might want to reconsider that. Yeah.
Yeah. But Michigan State, they go up 14-7 at halftime. The game gets tied 14-14 in the third. Michigan State goes back up 21-14. They extend that lead to 31-21. And Oregon, with a decent play there by Vernon Adams in his second week in the Oregon offense, ties the game or gets the game within 3 at 31-28 with just under 3 minutes left. Oregon gets the ball back, and within the final minute, they have a guy wide open streaking towards the end zone, and Adams just overthrows him, and he was wide open. The game-winning touchdown just sails over the fingers of the wide receiver. Then they go to fourth down, and he doesn't even get the ball even close to the receiver. Adams throws it short. Michigan State holds on, wins the game, 31-21. Oregon drops several spots down the poll. Michigan State stays at number 5. Big win there by Sparty, and a good performance by Connor Cook, I thought.
I think that Oregon got punished a little bit for this game. I don't think they should have dropped as significantly as they did.
They've dropped all the way to 12.
Okay, that's not terrible, but I think you got to take into consideration who they played and who they lost to.
Right.
And here's my thing on this game. I came away from that game feeling more like Oregon lost it than Michigan State won it, if that makes any sense.
I agree. Yeah, well, because, again, Oregon had the game-winning touchdown pass wide open. Just missed them.
I think Michigan State kind of hung on for dear life and just managed to squeak this one out. But I didn't come away from it thinking Michigan State's definitely better than Oregon. I never felt that way at all after that game.
The other thing for Oregon, besides losing and moving down the poll, their starting quarterback, Vernon Adams, broke his index finger on his throwing hand.
Oh, boy.
So questionable as to whether he's going to play. Obviously, that's probably the most important finger on your throwing hand.
Yes.
That's the one where you push off on. So things could stumble out of control here for Oregon quick, but 1-1, 12th in the nation. The schedule from here until about week 9 or so is pretty easy for them. They should take care of business between now and then. But I think it was a big win for Michigan State to stay on top of where they are, to stay undefeated. And I think this is a big confidence booster for them. You know, they lost this game last year when they were up big in Oregon, and for them to come back and take care of business at home, I think is big for them, at least mentally.
I agree. But the thing that I look at from this, one of the things that Michigan State talked about last year was that they kind of went conservative in the second half because they had the lead in Oregon at Oregon last year, if you remember.
Yes.
And they said they're not going to do that this year, so they didn't do that this year. And guess what? Oregon still almost beat them. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Michigan State. This is a nice win. They beat a very good team. But I think I would have liked to have been a little more impressed than I was by this. And again, that's not like me as a Homer Ohio State guy talking. Like I said, I just felt like that. I think Michigan State could have won this game more handily than they did. I don't know what happened in there along the way, but still a great win for them. And they stay at number 5 in the country.
Well, they move up to number 4, actually.
Excuse me, number 4.
They were number 5. They move it to number 4. Ohio State's unanimous hold on the number 1 spot in the AP poll broken. 2 first-place votes for Michigan State.
Okay, I don't buy that at all. I'm sorry.
I wonder where those 2 writers are from.
Exactly. You want to talk about putting Alabama in there? I'd say, okay, fine. But Michigan State, no, they're not number. Okay, no. We'll find out down the road. I'm not even worried about it.
We move from number 5 to number 6, Auburn. I think it's time to pump the brakes on the Auburn Tigers.
I think so too. Yep.
Auburn survives, and when I say survives, I mean they, by the skin of their teeth, survive against FCS Jacksonville State at home.
Yes.
Auburn's down 10-6. They're down at home in the third quarter. It's only 6 points against the freaking FCS school. Auburn's able to go up 13-10, but Jacksonville comes back to tie it 13-13. Midway through the third, they intercept Auburn, and Jacksonville goes down to score and take the lead 20-13. But on their next drive, only a 17-yard punt gives Auburn great field position. They tie it up, and at the ball, I think there was about 40 seconds left. They had a timeout or so. Jacksonville State, they kneel and just go to overtime. I think that's a bad call by them. You're an FCS school.
You gotta go for it. You gotta go for
an SEC school.
Right.
You go for it. Like you're going to say, you go for it.
You got nothing to lose. You got to go for it. You don't give them any chance to do anything. But yeah, I think you're right. It's time to pump the brakes on the Auburn Tigers. They had a hell of a time with Louisville last week. Now Louisville is obviously a much better opponent than Jacksonville State, but then you see this, and I'm not saying that Auburn's not going to be pretty good this year, but I think we've got to probably drop them down the list on our playoff expectations, because this is a bad. If there's such thing as a bad win in NCAA football, this is one of them right here.
Yeah, Auburn goes into overtime. They score first, and Jacksonville almost gets a game-tying touchdown pass in overtime, but just like an inch or so out of the end zone. And Auburn holds on 27-20. They drop 12 spots in the poll from 12 to 18.
I can't argue with that after their first 2 weeks. They've got to work to earn my respect back, because they have not played well these first 2 weeks of the season.
No, the quarterback, Jeremy Johnson, has not looked good in his first two games. And after last week was such a big week for the SEC, a very bad week here in week 2 for the SEC in terms of upsets, and it would have been catastrophic if Auburn lost this game. But I think even a win like this, it stays in their head. You know, you don't say, "Well, we put that one behind us, we're on to the next game." I don't know how you do that. It's tough. I think it was also a situation where Auburn just didn't look engaged in the game. They thought, "Oh, FCS school, Jacksonville State, whatever." And they snuck up on them and almost beat them. So,
yeah, again, like I said, bad win for the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, definitely pumping the brakes. Move on to number 8 USC for the second straight week. They blow out a Sun Belt team, 59-9 over Idaho, who's somehow in the Sun Belt. USC, they move up 2 spots to number 6. They host Stanford this weekend, a game I will be at in the Coliseum.
All right, good
Saturday
for you.
Night Football in the Coliseum.
Cool.
Move on from number 8 SC. They moves up to 6. Notre Dame was number 9 last week, and they hung on, pulled them one out late at Virginia. This was actually a very exciting game, closer than it probably should have been.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think it's as close as I think it was exactly right. I'm not sold on this Notre Dame team, and I'm starting to look vindicated here already in week 2.
Notre Dame executed a perfect fake field goal for the first touchdown to go up 17-7-0. But Virginia kept fighting back, and they on their own trick play on a reverse pass, they go up 14-12. Notre Dame back up 19-14 on a long pass by Malik Zaire. But on the very next Notre Dame drive, Zaire gets pulled down, rolled on his ankle, broken ankle. He is out for the season, the starting quarterback for the Irish. So UVA goes up 27-26. But on the very next Notre Dame drive, with 17 seconds remaining, the new starting quarterback, Deshaun Kaiser, I'm not even going to ask you how to spell that, Greg. It's ridiculous when you look at it on paper. A 39-yard touchdown pass with 17 seconds remaining as Notre Dame pulls one out against Virginia. Notre Dame 0 for 10 on third downs in this game against Virginia.
Like I said at the preview, I'm not sold on these guys. I think they're an 8, maybe 9-win team, but they're not a playoff contender, and I think we saw it on Saturday. Now, granted, they lost their starting quarterback, but come on, this is Virginia here. Now, Virginia, they played somebody tough in the first week, too. I can't remember who it was. UCLA. Oh, they didn't play them that tough. I think they got blown out pretty bad, didn't they?
Yeah, Josh, the Rosen one, as they're calling him at UCLA.
Okay. But I'm not sold on Notre Dame, and losing their starting quarterback, that's going to hurt, too. I think that, again, 8-9 wins, but nowhere near as good as people thought. The hype train, you got to find somebody else, because guess what, Auburn, Notre Dame, you're sitting at the station waiting for the next one to come along.
Number 10, Georgia, they were tight with Vanderbilt, pulled away late in the fourth quarter for a 31-14 win. UGA moves up to number 7 in the poll. Florida State handles business against USF, they move up to number 9 from 11.
I kind of thought that game might have a shot at being a little bit tighter than it was, but
34-14.
Yeah.
Florida State's, I think a lot of people are overlooking Florida State just because they lost Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
But they're still talented. They're still Florida State. They still have talent in a lot of positions. They might just sneak up on people and get themselves into playoff contention late in the season because people just forgot about him. Just said Jameis Winston, okay, whatever. Everett Golson, yeah, okay. I saw him in Notre Dame.
But you know what, though? That's a mistake people make a lot in college football is when you lose a guy like a Jameis Winston or a Marcus Mariota, you forget that there's a reason Florida State's been good for as long as they've been.
Exactly.
And there's a reason that teams like that stay in the conversation all the time because they recruit well, and there's always a guy to take the guy's place, you know?
Yep. Clemson deals with Appalachian State pretty well, 41-10.
Yeah, no problem there.
UCLA moves back into the top 10 after a 37-3 win at UNLV. UCLA is number 10 in the country, with moving up 3 spots. LSU, in their first game of the season after being rained out last week, they hold off a late rally by Mississippi State in their SEC opener for a win. LSU moves up a spot to number 13. Mississippi State was number 25. They drop right back out of the rankings. LSU cannot throw the ball.
No,
LSU cannot throw the ball at all.
No, but you know what? I'm going to take my confidence in Auburn, and I'm transferring it to LSU.
You think so?
I liked them. I talked about it in the preview. I said I like this team to sneak up on people. They'll figure out how to throw the ball. This is your sleeper team here. I still believe that, the LSU Tigers.
Yeah, LSU can run the ball like hell. They're still pretty good at that, but throwing, not exactly their forte at this point.
I didn't realize, too, with Mississippi State that they lost, I want to say, 7 or 8 starters from last year's offense.
Yeah, Dak Prescott's still the quarterback there, but they lost some offensive linemen and running backs.
Right.
Georgia Tech wins by 55 against Tulane.
There we go. The Ramblin' Wreck.
Texas A&M wins their first game as a ranked team this year, 56-23 over Ball State. Way to schedule up there. Ole Miss with a big win over Fresno State. They were number 17, but we move up to number 18, Greg.
My Toledo Rockets.
The number 2 team in the country, your
That's
Toledo
right.
Rockets.
Exactly.
Arkansas,
What the hell happened there?
At home in Little Rock, Toledo goes up 6-0 to start off this game against Arkansas. Arkansas gets a touchdown, so they get up 7-6 in the second quarter, but then Toledo goes back up 16-7. And Arkansas, in the final seconds, they get it within the 20. They have a shot to win this game, and just terrible execution. They just look really bad, and Toledo gets its second biggest upset in school history by knocking off the Arkansas Razorbacks.
So are people saying that the Michigan upset was bigger than this one? Is that why we're getting it as the second biggest upset?
Yes.
See, I disagree, because Michigan wasn't as good. They weren't, I mean, they were good, but they weren't like, this wasn't like knocking off an SEC team, but I'll take it either way. And I want to say, too, that my Rockets, not only did they beat Arkansas, their uniforms didn't look entirely awful like they usually do. This is a great win for the Rockets. I don't know what to say about it. I'm surprised. I also think, too, that usually when you see an upset like this, it's not a low-scoring affair like this. Usually a team like Toledo and the MAC doesn't go into an SEC school stadium and play defense and win a game that way.
Yeah.
That's a shocker to me.
It's amazing to see a MAC team go into the SEC and win.
Exactly.
I think that's because it's not like Arkansas was a pushover. It's not like Toledo went and beat Kentucky
or Vanderbilt or something like that. Yeah.
Right. They beat a ranked Arkansas team at home. So that's a big deal for your Rockets. They get 29 votes in the poll this week. Looks like they're the 30th team in the country if you want to extrapolate it.
Okay.
Also in the SEC, another upset for the SEC. As we said, not a great week for the SEC as a whole. As Oklahoma goes into Knoxville. Number 19, Oklahoma. Number 23, Tennessee. Tennessee looked good at the start of this game. They were up 17-0. They were up 17-3 at half, and it looked like everything was going Rocky Top until the fourth quarter when Oklahoma, down 17-10, they tie it at 17 with 43 seconds left, 14 points in the fourth quarter. Into overtime, 4th and goal in the first overtime, and Oklahoma scores to keep the game tied. Oklahoma then scores first in the second overtime and intercept Tennessee in their next possession to knock off the Volunteers 27-24 in Knoxville. Big win for Oklahoma, big loss for Tennessee, who looked like it was on the up and up this year, but a pretty big setback here early in the season to a ranked Oklahoma team. Oklahoma moves up to number 16.
I don't think it's that big of a setback for the Vols. I will say this. As you were watching that game unfold, by the time it hit overtime, you knew Tennessee wasn't winning that game.
Yeah.
You just knew it because you could just tell that Oklahoma had taken all the momentum, and it was just a matter of time. It was just a matter of how are they going to finish it, because the Vols had And maybe this is because they're a team that's not used to being ranked. They're not used to having any kind of expectations, but they kind of got lost as Oklahoma started coming back on them. And
it was only 17 years ago that they won a national championship?
Yeah, that's a long time in college football.
I know, but still, you think a team that's won a national championship in the last 25 years could be a contending team at some point again.
Right. And again, this isn't like losing to Toledo. I mean, losing to Oklahoma is no shame, but it's.
But I think it's in the way that they lost.
Yeah.
17-0 at home. This is a game where you're trying to establish yourself as you're ranked. You're looking to move up in the SEC
exactly
hierarchy. This is just mentally and kind of for a statement game. It's a setback.
Exactly. I agree with that.
Plenty of games left, especially when they hit the SEC schedule. But they could have been the Mississippi State or Ole Miss of this season had they kept winning.
Exactly. I agree with that completely. I just think that you've got to be able to, when things start going against you like that, you've got to find a way to get your feet back underneath you. And they just couldn't seem to do that. When Oklahoma started rolling, it just kept right on going out of control. And the next thing you know, you lose.
Let's move on to who was the number 20 team in the country, the Boise State Broncos, knocked off in Provo by the BYU Fighting Cougars.
I like this BYU team.
The Fighting Mormons, with their backup quarterback Tanner Mangum, beat Boise State 35-24, as Boise State wore their all black and BYU wore their all whites. Whatever.
BYU looks like I like their uniforms.
The rankings. BYU's number 19 in the country.
I like this team. I don't think they're a playoff contender or anything, but I think they're going to be a pretty good team and fun to watch this year.
Definitely. It's nice to see. BYU's a school that is just kind of fun in general. I don't think they should be an independent team, but
no, that's always been a mistake. I've never understood why they've done that.
But they've been able to schedule pretty well. And if they can win the games on their schedule, much like in the way that you look at Notre Dame, they still have a decent schedule. If they win the games, then you can put them up, where they need to be. If BYU wins the games on their schedule, why not? Why not? Let them play.
Yeah, but let's say they lose one game. What are they playing for at that point? A bowl berth? Come on.
Yeah, bowl berth.
You got to have something to shoot for.
Yeah. So BYU enters the rankings at 19. Mizzou was at 21. They survive on the road at Arkansas State. A weird schedule for them, but they win 27-20 at Arkansas State, who got beat by 50 by USC the week previous. Arizona wins on the road at Nevada, 44-20. On Friday, number 24 Utah. They had a tight one with Utah State. They were tied at 14.5, but Utah scores 10 unanswered points there in the second half for a 24-14 win. Their starting quarterback, Travis Wilson, injured early on in the game, so that's a big loss for the Utes. But they're 2-0, so that's a good start for Utah. And it ended up being a pretty exciting week of college football last weekend.
We got any ranked matchups this week?
Let's see. We've got Auburn-LSU. That's a big game as Auburn opens up their conference schedule, where you had the confidence in Auburn, took it away, gave it to LSU. These two teams are fighting for your irrational confidence, Greg.
I'm sticking with my LSU Tigers. I just think they're going to surprise people this year.
The Georgia Tech Ramblin' Wreck march into Notre Dame Stadium.
Ooh, there's going to be a good one.
Georgia Tech, number 8 Notre Dame.
I'm taking the Ramblin' Wreck in that. I think that triple option is just going to give Notre Dame fits, and I like Georgia Tech to win this game.
Another ranked matchup, you have Ole Miss visiting Alabama, number 14 at number 2.
That's going to be a curb stomp. Alabama's just going to annihilate them.
We talked about how much we like BYU. Will they get to prove it? Number 19 BYU at the Rose Bowl against number 10 UCLA.
Upset alert.
Upset alert.
Sound the sirens, yep. I'm not going to come right out and say that BYU is going to beat UCLA, but again, I think maybe season 1 of this show, Texas played BYU, and I said, watch out for this game. That's the way I feel about this one. I think BYU could easily win this.
I'm right there with you. Well, that's week 1 in the NFL, week 2 in the college footballs. Follow us on all of our platforms, Stitcher, Spreaker, YouTube, iTunes.
AshleyMadison.com.
AshleyMadison.com. MustacheEnthusiast.com. Yeah, and I guess that's all I got left.
That was pretty
Greg,
good.
Is there anything that you want to say before we send the folks on the rail?
Go Pack.
Go Colts. Go Sun Devils. For Greg, I'm Zach. This has been basically a football show. Enjoy the football, everybody.
The Chiefs responded to the Vikings score by returning to the strategy. Oh, now. Middle backer Don Dan. Oh, shoot.